Imagine this. It's May 2024, and NASA's Curiosity rover is steadily making its way across the rocky terrain of Mars, exploring the mysteries of the red planet. The landscape is harsh, barren, and at first glance lifeless. But then something unexpected happens. As Curiosity rolls over a seemingly ordinary rock near Gale Crater, it cracks open, revealing a hidden treasure inside, a small yellow crystal. Now, this might not seem like a big deal at first. A yellow crystal on Mars, so what? But this tiny find is actually a huge deal. You see, this crystal is made of sulfur, and its discovery could rewrite what we know about Mars. So why is sulfur so important? Well, sulfur crystals, specifically sulfates, often form when water evaporates. That means this little yellow crystal is like a time capsule from Mars's ancient past, whispering to us that there was once water on this dry and dusty planet. Water, as we know, is the key ingredient for life as we know it. So finding evidence of water on Mars is like finding the missing piece of a cosmic puzzle. But that's not all. The presence of sulfur could also be a clue to the volcanic history of Mars. Long ago, powerful volcanoes might have erupted on Mars, spewing sulfuric gases into the atmosphere. These gases could have mixed with water, creating sulfur compounds that eventually crystallized as the water evaporated. This means that Mars wasn't always the cold, barren place it is today. It might have been more dynamic, with active volcanoes and flowing water, a place that might have once been more like Earth. Here's where things get even more exciting. The discovery of sulfur on Mars doesn't just hint at water and volcanoes, it also opens up the possibility of life. Now, before you start imagining little green Martians, let's clarify. We're talking about tiny, simple life forms like microbes. On Earth, there are microorganisms that use sulfur as an energy source, living in some of the most extreme environments like deep-sea hydrothermal vents. If life ever existed on Mars, it might have been these kinds of tough, resilient microbes using sulfur to survive in harsh conditions. But how do we know for sure? This is where it gets tricky. To prove that life once existed on Mars, we would need direct evidence, like fossils of these microbes or even better, living ones. And to find that, we'd need a microscope on Mars to take a really close look. Unfortunately, sending such precise instruments to Mars is incredibly difficult and expensive. So, while this yellow crystal is a tantalizing clue, it's not enough to prove that Mars was once alive. You might be wondering, why not just send a microscope to Mars? It sounds simple enough, right? But it's not that easy. Mars is a long way from Earth, and getting anything there is a major challenge. A microscope that could find tiny life forms needs to be very advanced, and that means it's also heavy and fragile. Transporting something like that all the way to Mars, making sure it works in the planet's extreme conditions, and then sending back high-quality images, these are enormous challenges. Plus, it's expensive, really expensive. Even if we manage to get a microscope to Mars, there are other issues too. The harsh Martian environment, with its freezing temperatures and swirling dust storms, could damage the equipment. And transmitting high-resolution images from Mars to Earth takes a lot of time and energy. All these factors make the idea of sending a microscope to Mars complicated and costly. So what's the solution? One idea that's gaining traction is to send humans to Mars. Yes, actual people. While robots like Curiosity are amazing, they have limitations. Humans, on the other hand, can adapt, troubleshoot problems, and conduct complex experiments on the spot. If we could send astronauts to Mars, they could bring all kinds of advanced equipment with them, including microscopes, and they could explore in ways that robots simply can't. NASA and companies like SpaceX are already working on plans for manned missions to Mars. It's still a few years away, but the day may come when humans set foot on the red planet. If and when that happens, we could finally get the answers we've been searching for about life on Mars. So, what started as a simple crack in a rock has turned into one of the most exciting discoveries in Mars exploration. This little yellow crystal formed from sulfur is more than just a pretty mineral. It's a piece of Mars history, a clue to its past, and a potential sign that life, however small, might have once existed there. While we still have a lot of questions, this discovery reminds us that exploration is full of surprises. Sometimes the most incredible finds happen by accident, when we're not even looking for them. And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back at this moment as the first step toward finding life beyond Earth. So, as we continue to explore Mars and other worlds, let's keep our eyes open for those unexpected discoveries, because you never know when something small might turn out to be something truly extraordinary.